Welcome to the Prodigal and the Priest podcast, a podcast about faith, sports, and two friends from different cultures. Here are your hosts, Joey Scansella and Father Paul Bechter.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Prodigal and the Priest, podcast about faith, sports, two friends, and today is our episode where we ask some questions or answer some questions that you all have been asking us. So welcome to the podcast. So I guess technically it's Prodigal, Priest, and me. So, but I have a question for you to start off, surprise you with.
Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party?
Yeah.
So
It's not Monday, but
it's not Monday, but hey, I found the drop. Okay, so tonight we record the day before these podcasts are released on Spotify and Apple and all those streaming services. Tonight, NFL's back.
yes, it is.
Texans versus the Chiefs. So here's my question. Start off the show about questions. You got to call it right now. Who's playing in the Super Bowl and who wins?
Oh, dang. Okay, Cowboys.
You are such a homer.
What
Cowboys
do you
versus
expect me to
who,
say?
though?
I don't really know.
Okay, it's a question. You have to put out something that later on in the year, when you say this and they don't make the playoffs, I can replay this clip and be like,
Oh, okay.
oh yeah, remember when you called for the Cowboys? Or if they did make it and win, then I bring back the clip and be like, hey, remember when you predicted the Super Bowl? So I'll go first while you think.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the Saints versus the Ravens.
Ooh, okay.
And I think Drew Brees gets one more. I think the Saints win it, and I think he retires.
Dang. Okay, that's bold. It's a bold prediction.
Right.
I don't know. Who do I think? I think the Patriots under Cam Newton are going to drive their way.
That would be remarkable.
That would be remarkable.
You think they get past the Ravens and the Chiefs?
I think with Bill Belichick, anything is possible. I'm not saying I want it to happen.
So you're calling for Patriots versus Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl.
That would be entertaining, right?
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. But so you're saying Patriots versus Cowboys. And
Cowboys
win.
Cowboys take it, yeah.
Okay. Not as
bold as your prediction.
I mean, it's a homer prediction for you, but kind of, right?
I mean, yes, it is, but it's not like saying the Rangers are going to take it all in the World Series this year. Like,
True,
there's
like
a little bit more behind
Yes,
it.
yeah,
They
yeah,
are
yeah.
more desperate. They're more all in.
Yeah, they're also
Jerry's old.
projected. I mean, they're the number one team in the NFC East, and I'm a diehard Eagles fan. And I just know that the reality of injuries and the reality of my team falling apart before the season has even
apparently,
begun.
catastrophic injuries to the Eagles don't really affect their ability to beat the Cowboys in important games.
Hence last year, where no one from
last season
NFC East should have been allowed in the playoffs. Anyway, a bunch of people that hate sports are like, all right, ask the question. So
we want to hear about faith questions.
Right. Faith or just life or any of that. So, hey, let's start with an easy one. 2 questions. What did you guys want to be when you were growing up? And what would your dream job be now if you weren't a priest or youth minister? So growing up, I wanted to be a fireman. And
Classic.
yeah. I mean, I could say I want to be a Major League Baseball player, but I actually thought I would be a fireman. So, and then if I wasn't a youth minister, practically or in my, is this dream job or is this I don't know. Cause I'm I would probably love to be on the radio or a broadcaster or it involves some way in sports. I'll just be completely honest. I think after God, my family, sports is right there. And so, not that it should be, but it is. And yeah, that's, in some capacity. You? What did you want to be when you grew up? When you were a little kid?
Well, I wanted to be an astronaut.
Oh, that's cool.
So, one of the classic categories. I have always loved space. I've kind of drifted away from it a little bit.
Drifted?
And
Get what? Into space.
But I still think there would be something really cool.
Yes. It's just like
That's from Star Trek, Star Wars, right?
Something. I don't know.
messed up my
diss
on Star
I just
Trek.
have a star, like it just says space effects. I
I don't know Star
it.
Trek at all, but I think that's from Star
There
Trek.
you go.
And I was trying to hate on it and say it was from Star Wars, but messed it up in spite of myself.
There you go.
So
if you're watching on YouTube, your camera just fell off. Our camera just
rocketed off the stand.
talking about space. Father Paul's going to continue why I fixed the camera.
That was pretty amazing. Okay, so and we're back. I did really love space. I also had the sports dream of I want to be a pro golfer. That was never something that was actually realistic. Except maybe if I had really committed myself, I could have gotten to club pro level or been involved in the golf world, but not the kind of even the minor tours of golf. But if I wasn't a priest right now, I don't know. I think there's still something really cool about being involved in space. So working for NASA in some capacity, or even SpaceX or something. One of these other ones.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah.
That's great.
Or going to work for the Chinese government and their space program. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Just kidding.
All right. Okay. Great question. We loved it. So I'm going to bring up one that's a little bit more intense. It comes in two aspects, two different people. Jesse, Andrew asked kind of similar questions about giving money to somebody on the street who is, begging for money, asking for money. Jesse asked about this. Andrew asked about this. It says, I would love to hear your thoughts on the expectation when it comes to interacting with homeless. Obviously, not a huge, controversy in Coppell. But since our audience is worldwide, yes, it is, Andrew. Yes, it is. He lived in Austin, where there's a lot of homeless, and he knows, in Matthew 25, 35 through 36, it talks about loving your neighbor. But what is the expectation in the modern world? He gives a lot of awesome points and excellent things, but pretty much at the end says, I don't know. What are your thoughts on when you encounter somebody who is homeless and asking for money? I think there's personal thoughts on it. I think there's principles of the church, Jesus, when in the gospel stories, the people who were in similar situations, I feel like he directly gazed into their eyes, cared for them, and I know this is a passionate subject and a lot of people have strong opinions on it. It's well, you don't give money because then it just continues that issue, or what if the person doesn't use it to buy food, or they do. I was convicted one time when I heard a homily on this, actually, which is the only time in my life I ever have. But
that one I preached.
I don't know if I heard. I was really? I was gonna say I don't know who it was, but I wish I could give them credit. But they talked about the comparison, and I know this falls short, but it's stuck with me, and it's just kind of penetrated my heart to say. Are we really going to judge somebody who gives $5 to somebody begging on the street when God pours and gives us so much, and we squander it? God doesn't say, "Hey, Joey, I'm going to give you all this," but I'm watching you. I'm making sure you're going to follow through and you're going to do with it what I expect. He freely gives that grace, and not who am I to judge? Yes, I'm not. I don't want somebody to go buy drugs with that money.
Mm-hmm.
There is free will and free choice. And I don't know. I feel like those two things correspond to me to say, like, are we really going to, like, you know what I'm trying to say? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, it's good. It is good. And if you hadn't said both of those things, I would have brought them up too.
So you're copying me.
Yeah.
But I will say this.
I had the idea first.
Never, hopefully my mom's not listening to this episode because she always instilled in us to have like emergency like dollars in our wallet. I don't have any cash on me, so that's not usually the ability. But what I will do a lot of times when I'm at a stoplight and there is somebody, if I do have food, I'll offer some food or drink or something like that. And there's other times I just say, hey man, I have nothing. Can I pray for you? Because like there was an article I was reading in preparation for this about, Pope Francis was writing about it, and obviously he's very passionate about the poor, but he talked about, the Pope explained, like, do we even greet people who are on the streets with a hello, how are you, acknowledge their humanity, ask what they need, serve their deeper yearnings with more than just spare change? So toss it to you.
Yeah, there are so many things to say on this, and it's hard to know where to start exactly, and I'm definitely not going to cover the whole picture, so it's going to feel incomplete. But here's a couple thoughts. First, so this week on Wednesday, we had the Feast of St. Peter Claver. And St. Peter Claver was from Catalonia, and he went to Colombia. This was back in the 1600s, or late 15, early 1600s. And he made himself a slave to the slaves. So he was serving the poorest of the poor, people who were involved in the slave trade.
Right.
And he said, and he proved through his actions, he's like, what I want to give them is the gospel of Jesus Christ, but I have to start with with showing love through action just by giving them food and medicine. And like they've made this horrible slave trade voyage from West Africa to Colombia, and like a third of the people on board have died. Like they got like 10,000 slaves every year into that port. Like it was a truly horrific situation. And so he was serving in that area. And I think that that's an important principle for us, because what we want to give, right? We want to be instruments of communicating this gift of grace, eternal life. We know that's the greatest gift.
Right.
We want to be like Peter and John in Acts of the Apostles at the beautiful gate of the temple. Silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ, rise and walk. Right? We know that's more important. But sometimes you can't give that without starting with just the basic necessities of food and water and medicine and just human interaction. Yeah. So I know that that's a difficulty I've struggled with. This is just going to be like a couple thoughts.
Yeah.
Going through Rome, I would see the same beggars every day most of the time. I can't remember if I've talked about that before on the podcast.
I think you mentioned it, and also Andrew brought it up. He said Father Paul can relate. There are a lot of gypsies begging inside the Vatican walls every day, and priests and tour guides will tell you not to give them anything. Yeah,
and we would always ask like the seminary for guidance, exactly the same kind of question here. Like, what do I do? You've got this two sides. Like, God has given everything to me so freely, even though I misuse it all the time. So shouldn't I give freely? But then you start going down this track of like, but if I do, am I enabling? Or I don't make that much money as a seminarian, like, it's going to run out. And you start running down these things. And I found that for me, that was a really helpful moment of self-knowledge and of growth that I was trying to get out of this some way. And I would say like, I don't really carry money with me except like bigger bills and stuff like that. You need to carry cash in Rome, unlike here. But I didn't like to carry change around, and I was using that as an excuse with myself. And that's like, just carry change. Like, it's not going to affect my livelihood, right?
Right.
To give them change when I feel like it's appropriate. So it's good to have some.
Right.
The thing about and that can be true, like if you change the details, that can be true here in the United States as well, right? Like I don't have anything to give them when I come up on the street, but I do feel like I should give something. Well, start carrying some Nutri-Grain bars or something. Is that a throwback? Do they even have those anymore?
I think they do have them, but yeah, there's kits. Like there's,
Yeah.
I mean, there are
Like that can be a really good exercise for you, listener, to think, okay, what am I comfortable giving them, and
Right.
let me actually prepare some so that I'm ready, so I don't have that sort of convenient excuse to get away from something that I feel uncomfortable doing.
right.
Um,
Yeah, like people have packs, like they'll keep in their car, whether they're called homeless packs or shelter packs or whatever the correct term is. That some have like body wash and deodorant and a Nutri-Grain
Yeah.
bar, and
think
just
of
different,
something
like,
useful.
Yeah, like and keep like 15 or like it could be a family activity to pack these up and know, like I don't want my kids being like, here's what do you do when you get to a stoplight and you see somebody asking for money is you look down so you don't make eye contact.
Yeah.
Like I feel you're taught one way or the another, so sorry I cut you off.
So, two more things I can think of right now. First is, yes, it's true that they'll tell you not to give money to the beggars in Rome. And even religious orders will do that, but that's because those religious orders are the ones who are set up, like the Missionaries of Charity, Mother Teresa's order. They've got a strong presence in Rome.
Right.
And so they'll say like, we are set up to actually help them. And so if you ask them, they'd probably say like, don't feel obligated to give money or something like that. But on a personal level, I think I know it's been important for me, and it's been like overcoming several hurdles of being kind of uncomfortable in the situation to like, sometimes give them change for a coffee, sometimes go buy them a coffee, sometimes go buy a sandwich. I've gone into the grocery store in Rome before and bought like a full load of groceries. And to kind of run the gamut of like different ways to give has been important for me. And then like there are some people I know that drink a box of wine every morning, and like I'll smile at them. But that particular guy never really asked me for money. It's just, it's hard when you frame it in terms of what am I obliged to do. It's hard to know exactly. We do have an obligation in charity to our neighbor. St. Paul said it in our second reading last weekend. Owe nothing to each other except to love one another.
Right.
And
we have the corporal works of mercy.
Yeah. Right. But framing it as like, what do I have to do? I think is less helpful than what is like grace moving me to do right now.
What's the opportunity you have set before you?
Yeah. And then, so the last thing is, and I know that these are just kind of scattered thoughts, but I think that's how you have to approach something like this. The last thing is like, it is really important to try and have a human encounter. And on the one hand, not to give things in order to avoid having an uncomfortable human encounter. But on the other hand, like when people live on the street like that, however they got there, and whyever they remain there, it dehumanizes them. And when you spend your whole day and your whole week and years just asking people for money and being turned down, it does dehumanize you in a way. And so I found in Rome, I wanted to, have real conversations with people on the street. And it was so hard.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you started talking, they were like, okay, well, this person's going to give me money. And then you're like, no, I don't want to give money. I just want to talk. And then they would get mad. Or there was sort of like, I'm not sure if we're really communicating at all right now. There's one guy in particular, no, two in Rome I can think of that I would pass daily, where it's like I would engage them regularly,
Oh.
and I maybe had like 2 real conversations over 7 years.
Right.
But I think it's worth trying because like that's a way to give sort of the gift of restoring humanity.
Yeah.
Even if people don't react well to it,
Right.
and or even if it seems ineffective, I
Right.
think like that is a very important gift. Providing for their needs is extremely important too. I don't think it's really an either or, but doing so in such a way that you're trying to have a human interaction with people.
Yeah.
It might really surprise you and be really formative for you, or it might feel like you got nowhere, but trying is so important because you don't know the effect
Yeah.
like that act of kindness or that smile might have actually had on somebody.
Right.
Um,
3 of the most profound things I did when I was at Franciscan University was go and pray and be a sidewalk counselor outside an abortion clinic.
Yeah.
Second is I went a few times to be part of a ministry called Red Light Ministry, which went down to the district where there was strip clubs, and we would pray outside it and talk to anybody who came up and ask what we were doing. And the third was there was a regular ministry called Homeless Ministry where they would go into Pittsburgh and under kind of certain areas where a lot of homeless gathered, would try to bring meals and just talk. All 3 taught me one profound thing, which was, Joey, you're not necessarily like put in this situation to solve the issue.
Yeah.
You're called to like listen and look upon with compassion and like just have each and every one of those people like realize like they're a son and daughter of God and that they are a human and they deserve to be interacted like that, and it just always stuck with me that like, and I will be honest, since living in Coppell, I've probably lost some of that compassion, because we don't see it as much. We don't deal with it as much. I don't drive into Dallas as much, and when I do, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not prepared for this. And I think it's a good reminder and good questions for all of us to say, like, yeah, what is our response and what is our question? And also having resources. There is a difference between somebody who, like, there are chronically poor and then people who need some help in the moment. And that difference, and also having resources to point people towards, like, hey, here's this organization that deals with this, and I'd love to get you connected with that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a complex question.
Yeah.
It's probably not a terribly satisfying answer, but
Yeah,
it's
people
kind of-
hate us, and we just lost listeners.
Yeah. No, but it's kind of like, I mean, in grappling with this and in trying to figure out how to exercise charity, like charity is par excellence the closest approximation by grace to God's own love dwelling within us, right? Impelling us to do the same things that Christ did, to lay down his life sacrificially, to empty ourselves. Like that's what we mean by charity. We don't just mean, charity as I give this amount to this charitable organization and then write it off on my taxes or whatever. Like, I mean charity in the sense of theological love that God himself gives us.
Right.
And and it's not always clear how you're supposed to exercise that, but if that's where you're coming from,
Yeah.
that's a pleasing thing.
Yeah.
It's a pleasing thing to God.
All right, let's jump into a few more. Also, I have to, like I said, Andrew asked this, and also Jesse Anonymous asked this, and Jesse asked that question, and then a follow-up said, can you start a St. Anne's basketball league? Why or why not?
What kind of question?
Probably not. I have like a bunch of things I'm doing at the church, but it is awesome, and like I wish we did. We used to like have that kind of Thursday me and you basketball league where you broke my nose.
Yeah, there was a play the other night. I don't think it was last night. Maybe it was in the Lakers game where Yeah, there was a play that reminded me of that play.
Where
Like somebody threw his nose at the elbow of someone else.
Get out of here.
And fouled him, and then like almost broke his nose. Yeah, so we used to play basketball.
Yeah, we
that's
should
how
do
our
that
friendship
again.
was forged. Yeah, we should. I've got that chain net that's barely hanging on. I need to go and fix it.
I just worry at this age we're just gonna like tear an Achilles heel or like and be like, oh, I can't say mass because I tore my Achilles.
Destroy my back.
I tore my bicep and I can't lift up the chalice.
Yeah, no, there's very high risk.
But low reward.
Yeah, high risk, low reward. That sounds about right.
All right.
Yeah.
Allie also, Allie asks, kind of laugh at this. Okay. Father Paul, how'd you know you wanted to become a priest? And then Joey, why are the comments turned off on YouTube? Is there a way to leave a comment? I'm not laughing at it's just kind of funny. I feel like sometimes, like I said before, people are like, well, I got to be nice to that prodigal guy and toss a question for him. But it's like,
but really the question is.
Right. Really, the question is, hey, Father Paul, how'd you become a priest? It's like, hey, Joey, could you do your job better? Could you get the comments on? I will look into that. I actually didn't even know that they weren't on. So I apologize if they weren't.
We'd love to hear your comments.
And yeah, you sent a great email, and she was saying that she's been exploring her faith for a couple months now, and we've shed light on many questions she's had. So thank you, and thank you for listening. But she wants to know, Father Paul, how'd you know you wanted to become a priest?
Yeah. How much time do we have left?
Yeah, you got about a minute. You got 90 seconds. You're on the clock.
Okay, on the clock, 90 seconds. Do you have like a Jeopardy theme or anything?
I probably do. I'll find it.
It'll take you 90 seconds to get there.
Mic drop. Okay.
So,
go for it.
I knew I wanted to be a priest when I started. I had a big like conversion experience, reversion experience. I grew up Catholic. When I was in my first year of university at University of Dallas, I came back to the faith after not practicing for a while. And that started me down this path of growing closer and closer to Christ and learning more and more about the church and falling more and more in love with all of it. I got to the point where I was reading The Life of a Saint, and the saint was describing this desire to give themselves totally over to God. Mm. And I think you can hear that, and it might evoke different things from you. It might look different in your imagination, what it means to give your life totally over to Christ. But when I heard that, or when I read that, and it struck me, the image was, I think God is calling me to be a priest. That's the thought, that's the sort of image I had in my mind of this is what it means to give my life totally over to God. And from then on, it was fairly clear.
Yeah.
Took some time to discern exactly what that looked like, whether it was real. But I knew because from that moment on, I had a desire to give my life totally over to Christ. And that desire led me into the seminary. That's the short answer.
And I knew I wanted to be a priest when I had children. And my life became
via
hard.
negativa.
All right, one quick one. We're going to get it in. This is totally a subjective answer. There's really nothing behind it. It's so subjective. What's the best college football program ever? I want to end on a football note with college football coming back, NFL. Best college football program ever.
University of Texas at Austin.
Really?
UTA, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah.
No, I made that mistake a long time ago. It's just UT.
I probably Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's really what I was thinking, but I just couldn't bring myself to say it.
Yeah. I think a few others rival it, even if it's not present. I mean, of course, Homer being a Notre Dame fan, I would say, like, okay. I think like the past of Notre Dame or some of those programs like Army, Navy, Notre Dame, when they were like the most relevant programs in the country for so long. And then right now being in the spotlight, you have the Alabamas, Clemson's,
Clemson's
LSU,
incredible. Yeah.
Ohio State's, those top ones.
Ohio
So,
State. I just want to qualify all my answers regarding college sports from like now until forever. I know nothing about college sports. I blame it on growing up in Bermuda. I have all these excuses, but I know so little about college sports that every answer to me seems kind of like a joke.
There you go. So anybody who has questions, direct those to me. Say, Joey, what do you think about this college thing? So I want to thank you all for listening to Prodigal and the Priest and me. Make sure to submit those questions online, stannparish.org/PTP or prodigalandthepriest@gmail.com. On behalf of Joey Scansella, Father Paul Bechter, take care.
And God bless.